This just in, if you haven't heard already, the Supreme Court said no more $20,000 debt cancellation. The Biden plan, of course, is talking about doing debt forgiveness for a lot of people, just canceling their debt, not just debt forgiveness, but canceling debt. Supreme Court voted by a majority rule that cannot be the case, meaning that starting in October 1st, everybody, including those that have been in forbearance for the last 3.5 years, now have to start paying back their loans. So I want to talk about that today, especially if you're one of those people. There's over 40 million people right now with student loan balances. The question is, what do you do? Especially if you haven't been paying for so long and you've had inflation kicking your butt, how can you actually afford to make these payments? What are your first steps? So let me talk about that right now. Okay, so the first thing you want to do if you have student loans is go to studentaid.gov. That's studentaid.gov. Go there and log in. Look up the details on your site, including what are your monthly payments coming up, including the terms, even your contact information. Make sure that your address, your phone numbers are up to date and accurate. Just make sure everything's done there. And then when you go on, you can also see what your monthly payments are supposed to be. Now, here's the thing. If you were in default before, like if you were late on your payments, you would want to start looking into that Fresh Start program. The Fresh Start program would be really good to look up just to see what you can do to negotiate lower payments potentially. So if you weren't late on your payments, the thing you can also do is go here. You can go to studentaid.gov and also even call them up. And if you can get through, but contact them and see what you can do to negotiate an income-driven repayment, IDR as they call it. So you have different payment options available to you. A lot of it dependent upon how much income you're earning, how much available cash do you have. You can actually get these payments down lower. So the good news is, even though they got rid of this whole debt cancellation thing, which I thought was kind of dumb in the first place, because how do you draw the line, right? You cancel people's debts now, but I had student loan debt for 15 years and they didn't cancel mine at all, right? So it was kind of a tough go in the first place. But if you're in this position where you want to be able to negotiate those payments, this is a perfect opportunity to do so because you've got the next few months over the summer to do this. Just so you know, interest will start accruing in September. So be ready that October 1st is when the first payment comes due. Now, I want to come from the place of where I was before too, because I've had student loans. I've been in places where I was strapped tight for cash. And that was one of the reasons why I let my debt payments go for about 15 years, because I was strapped. There was different times I was launching my business. I had great boom times, and then I had bust times, especially when the recession hit. This could very well happen to you as well. And even if a recession doesn't hit, what if you end up having a job layoff, right? What if there's some situation comes up? Maybe you have unexpected expenses happening, medical expenses, whatever it might be. You want to make sure you're prepared. So I want to share some things that have helped me through this, because yes, you can go to the website there and you can negotiate payments, and that's great. But at the end of the day, the truth is you haven't been paying payments for the last 3.5 years, unless you as an option, went in and started paying down those loans. But most people, for the vast majority of you, you haven't been paying this. And now this is going to feel like a brand new bill coming up. It's going to feel like you just bought a new car and now you got to pay for your student loan. Now, there are potential, if you do this income-driven repayment, you could potentially have a $0 a month payment. I shouldn't say very possible, but depending on your income, that's very possible. So again, look at those options to see what you can do so it's at least palatable, so you can at least warm up into it. And it can mean that those payments could increase over time as your income increases as well. But it's nice to know that you can kind of ease into this. Know that interest is still being charged. That's one thing that will happen. So you want to make sure as you're easing into this repayment plan that you are budgeting this in now. So if that means you have to start prioritizing your money a little bit, I would start doing that. One great thing you start doing is start tracking your money. Start going and track your money, whether you're just using spreadsheets, whether you're using something like Mint. I love using the Mint app or the website, mint.com, where you can go and start tracking your money and seeing where maybe your spending could be cut back a little bit more. Again, don't cut all the joy out of your life, but I would definitely make this a priority to ensure that you've got enough discretionary income to be able to make these payments, and it won't create a lot of stress for you, especially if inflation does keep going up. So make sure you at least plan for this right now. Don't wait. Start planning for it. Start taking action, because I guarantee when we hit September and even October, there's going to be plenty of people calling up the phone lines, going crazy with messages, and you're going to have a delay of response time if you can even get through. So now is the time to act. And it's also a good time to act when you're starting to look at your expenses, knowing how much income's coming in, and really create a good spending plan so that you know. Notice I didn't use the word budget, but spending plan, so you know exactly what you should be spending right now and what you need to free up in case you are paycheck to paycheck right now, how much money you need to free up every month so that you can afford to make this payment. Now, here's another thing too. One of the big questions I get from people is, should I accelerate the payments? Should I pay this off faster? Now, there is a potential that there's that loan forgiveness after 20 to 25 years for those that were under the original balance. If you had student loans that were less than 12,000, so if you had very cheap schooling, you might be able to have loan forgiveness after 10 years. But the 20 to 25 years is typically when they'll have loan forgiveness. This means you could be paying for the next 20 to 25 years. Here's what I would recommend. This is how I viewed it when I was paying this back. There were times in my life I could have paid off my loans. I actually had a very low balance. I was right around that, probably about $14,000 mark total by the time I was done with 4 years of schooling. But here's the thing. I wasn't in a big rush to pay it off. Now, this could be different for you, but for me, my student loan interest rate was 3.625%. It was awesome. I knew that even at that time, that was less than inflation. So I knew that was getting cheaper for me over time. Now, I wasn't banking on this. In fact, if I share this strategy with you, I'm assuming, right, that you are going to be smart with this. You're going to be a wise steward of your money. You're going to try to do what's wise with it. If you're a spender, if you're somebody who just keeps spending money and you can't control it, don't even worry about this. Just pay off this loan as quick as you can. But for those of you that can be wiser with your money, you feel like you have some discipline with it, this can work great depending on your situation. Because I did two things with my money instead of paying off my loan. One is I invested in my own business because I know that if there's any investment I'm going to put my money into, it's my own business. Whether this is a side hustle for you or a primary business that becomes your primary source of income, that could be the best returning investment possible in your situation, especially when you know you can do that. Again, focus is if you start to have a business like this, make sure you have profit, right? Don't just build the business and you're spending so much that you never can pull money from that business. The ideal is if you put money into this business, you want it to come and spit out more money than what it's going to cost you for the student loan payment. So for example, I remember one time that I had about a $10,000 balance, but my student loan payment was only roughly about $60, $70 a month. So the theory is this: if I could take $10,000, put it into my business, can I make at least $60 or $70 a month profit that I can take home? If not, then it's not a good investment. I shouldn't be doing that business. The truth is, if you're a business owner, if you put 10,000 in business, you better be making at least a few $100s a month, if not thousands a month from that seed money, right? That's the whole key of business. So that could be one of the best investments to do. Notice I say your business. I'm not saying invest in somebody else's business like a stock. Don't go buy Apple stock with the money you could have used your money. That is a gamble and you can easily lose everything. Don't go putting this money into crypto instead. Don't go putting your money in other places where you have no control. Not a great place to do it. Those things aren't proven. Those things can go down just like they can go up. There's a lot of volatility. You don't want to put your money at risk there. I would rather have you pay off your loan than try to go and gamble your money in stock markets or crypto. So be careful. Do not do that. Now, like I said, if your own business, that's great, especially if you have a good, solid business model. Again, it's always about stewardship. Are you going to be disciplined and do what you say you're going to do? The other thing you do as well is, of course, you can invest money. This is another thing I did as well, is that I went and I started buying real estate. I didn't pay off my loan instead because I knew I could buy real estate that could return a much higher rate of return than that 3.625% interest. Now, granted, if you happen to have this crazy student loan, most of you would never have this situation. But say that the interest rate on your student loan was 12, 15%, right? Almost like a credit card. No, okay, that's a different story. We might just want to focus on paying that off. However, if you've got student loan interest that might be 8% or less, you could be making more money in passive investments. You could be making more money there, still protect your principal, but your money's kicking off returns that could actually pay your payment for you. So for example, if I have $100,000 student loans and then I save up $100,000, I could pay off that student loan and that might be the best thing to do. What if that $100,000 could kick off $10,000 a year? Would that allow me to still make my payments and then some? And maybe it can even accelerate paying off my student loans faster. So there's a lot of ways to do that. And in many cases, when we have clients that have this option, sometimes their student loan payments are much less than what they would be earning on the investment. So they pay the minimum payment, but then take the rest of it and invest it to keep building and compounding that money to kick off and pay more income. Again, I would definitely warn you that investments, there's always an element of risk. You could lose money. At least, if you pay off your student loan, it's guaranteed, right? So if you're going to do the investing aspect of things, just like when you're going to invest in your own business, understand that you've got to be a wise steward. You got to be disciplined. Make sure you're putting your money in the right places. That's important. That's a key thing to always remember. So anyways, guys, that's the kind of advice I have to give you right now is, of course, go to student8.gov, start to see what kind of options you have available to you and what kind of repayment plans, how much the payment's going to be, plan for it, Get that spending plan in order. Make sure your spending is reduced to a point where you can afford these payments and maybe even a little bit more in case they go up on you. Then you can start to see if whether you should go and invest that money in business. Can you invest that money in other places like real estate investing or whatever it might be? But you could do other things with that money, of course, other than paying off your loan. But just know this, guys, is that it always comes back to you as a steward. How wise are you with money? If it's a hard thing, I would recommend paying off that loan, get rid of it, get your cash flow in order so that you don't have that payment coming out each and every month, and you can get your house in order. So that's my recommendation to you guys. You can always follow us for more. In fact, I would love to hear your comments below. What is your plan to do with this? What would you like to do with your student loan repayment? Go ahead and put that in the comments below. And by the way, remember to like and subscribe us here at Money Ripples.